What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bingetown TV. This is Brian here with my co-hosts, producer Dave and Paul. And today we have a finale on our hands, and a big one at that. A finale for season 4 of Amazon Prime's The Boys. This, of course, will be episode 8, entitled Assassination Run. I've gone through the housekeeping 7 times already. If you don't already know, we're Bingetown TV. You can find us at bingetowntv.com. You know how to navigate the internet. I trust you guys. House of the Dragon is still ongoing. I highly suggest you check it out because that has an entirely different cast of hosts, so you can try a little different flavor from the Bingetown TV crew. But definitely check us out on bingetowntv.com. But yes, we do indeed have a finale on our hands today, and by the text that we exchanged, we haven't really talked about it a lot, but it has been a little bit divisive. I have my own opinions. Like any episode of The Boys, much less a finale, it had those kind of jaw-dropping moments. I don't really know what else to say. I might actually be in the Paul side of the fence. I think I'm a little bit more up in the air, and you two seem to have planted your flags on one side of the fence or the other. So I'm going to go with the bad first. Paul, I am dying to hear what you thought of this finale.
Okay, so I'm the bad, but I'll say it was like, if I had to rate the episode, I don't know. I think it was one of the weaker ones of the Boys series in general. There were some big spectacle moments like, holy shit, what is happening? And like the thing that I'm confused about the most is we got a lot of things that I wanted, right? Like we got Butcher in the next season. That's good. We got Kimiko and Frenchie together. Like that's all I've ever wanted. My issue is I hate how it happened. I hate everything. Okay, so the Butcher thing, I'm not exactly, he's taken over by the cancer and the virus. I'm honestly fine with that. It's brutal. I hate it. But it's whatever. But like the Kimiko Frenchie stuff, like the jump rope from last season to this season to what was the point of them not being together for the entirety of this season if the whole point of season 3 was saying, hey, you're like a brother to me, you're like a sister to me, and then going to this, and then out of nowhere, no signs of wanting to be together at the very end. They just, I don't know, little things like that. And that goes to other things like Mallerie, Starlight's powers, Annie at the end. I'm all over the place, but I'm only so critical because this show was like my favorite show of all time. Like I thought it was going to be my favorite show, like period, halfway through season 3. And then the finale of season 3 kind of made me pull back a little bit. And then this season, I don't know. They've just left too many things up in the air for us to assume. And they're usually really good at dotting their I's and crossing their T's and just making sure everything makes sense. And I think there was just too many gaps this season for me to fully dive on it. So that being said, I still am looking forward to season 5, the last season. I think it's going to be insane. I liked a lot of what they did setup wise, but we will get more into specifics as we get to those scenes. But that is my take, that I wasn't thrilled with a lot of the writing.
Dave, before we get to you, this was, I assume, immediately after you watched the episode, and I quote, "I'm not going to lie, that was one of the worst episodes of The Boys' entire show."
That was Paul.
This is Paul, yes.
Yes.
Not because I didn't like what happened in it, because so much shit doesn't make any sense. Do you stand by it being one of the worst episodes of The Boys' entire show?
Yeah, from like a writing standpoint.
You kind of touched on it at the end of your monologue, but you said halfway through season 3, this was charting a course to be an all-time great, arguably your favorite show of all time. Was this episode or rather this season as a whole, because I think we've been planting those seeds, this one is falling a little bit flat of the standard they've set the first 3. Was it so bad that season 5 can't redeem it and put it back on that pedestal of an all-time great show? Or are you just like, okay, this is kind of turned into what it's into, I'm not really expecting all that much greatness from season 5?
I would say it dropped out of the top 5 TV shows of all time into top 10 for me. So, because it is so good in so many different parts, I don't wanna lose hope, but my expectations for season 5 have dropped dramatically. I think if they do it right, they could really save it, and I have a lot of hope because, the showrunner says that he has the last scene of season 5 he's had in his head from the beginning, and everything was working towards that goal. So it could end up working out really, really well. And I would be happy to be proven wrong in a lot of the issues that I have with this show. There's a lot of questions, so I have a feeling that you guys might be able to help me, you know, rank it a little bit higher by the end of
Mhm.
this discussion.
Dave, I'm committed to not let you talk this entire episode. I just want to respond to one thing you said. I think the creator, the showrunner's name is Eric Kripke. That dude has been releasing some very hyperbolic quotes. Right before they said they're ending it at season 5, he said something along the lines of, nobody has ever been more wrong in the history of television about how many seasons this is going to go. We're going to go on and on and on. And then like 2 weeks later, we're ending it at season 5. So this dude, like, does he know that final shot ever? You're right. I am starting to doubt the writing, and for me, this season has been the lack of crossing their T's and dotting your I's. I think that was a great quote and way that you put it. They're cutting corners here where they never used to cut corners, and it's unfortunate to see. It's kind of getting the same feel as the later stages of Game of Thrones, where they're trapped north of the wall and Gendry can make that like marathon run all the way back to the wall. And it's like, okay, so like, does traveling not take time anymore in Game of Thrones? Like, are we just kind of accepting that they need to move the ball along here quickly? And it's unfortunate because I agree with you. This was on pace to be an all-time show. I don't think I'm as down as you are, but I'm feeling those same flavors. I'm tasting those same flavors. And I want a wall of flavor. Shout out Gare Bear. Dave, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to put this up as like an all-time episode. I wouldn't agree that it's like an all-time bottom episode. I agree in the sense that a lot of the storylines we got this season were completely unnecessary. And I think from what it sounds like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but a lot of the complaints were a culmination of what happened in the season, maybe not the episode itself. It just feels like maybe the points that were coming up throughout the season that weren't necessarily hitting home with us throughout the entire season that we had been complaining about now finally wrapped up and felt like a waste of time. That all checks out for me. Like, I understand, and I also will agree this is definitely the worst season of The Boys so far, and I will stick by the mindset of I truly believe that this is just like the penultimate season. We're building up for something that's going to be incredible. That's just what I believe. I don't obviously know if that's going to happen or not. My faith is still there in the show. I don't think this season tarnished The Boys enough for me to drop it out of my top 5 favorite shows of all time. Granted, I don't watch all that much TV, especially
if you're
like
counting anime, it's outside.
Yeah, if you're counting anime, it's outside for sure. But yes, I think overall this episode was just solid. It was a finale episode, like B Tom said. There was a lot of jaw-dropping moments that made me feel like holy shit, and like there's a lot for me to look forward to in season 5. Like, me and Paul both thought Butcher weren't going to make it through this season. We did think, obviously, we would be devastated if that happened, because what is The Boys without Butcher? Now that he's going into season 5, I'm certainly hype about that. And I think his trajectory is going to be so insane. And I'm so excited to see what becomes of Butcher and Homelander, of course, too. But yes, this is probably the worst season of The Boys. And in terms of finale, I would probably rank this near the bottom. I still think 3, if this is
Can
like
someone
right there.
refresh me? What was the season 3 finale?
It was Maeve. It was Maeve survives.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
right.
The showdown was great in season
the showdown's
3,
great. Yeah.
But again, sorry, Annie. You're supposed to have a big moment at the end of season 3 where you levitated and then you kind of got your butt kicked. And we were waiting all season, season 4. We were like, Annie redemption moment. She's gonna kick ass. And she like kind of did, but it wasn't nearly the spectacle and like the redemption that I thought.
Annie, unfortunately, definitely had a very rough season, unfortunately. And this episode definitely doesn't back it up at all. We'll get there, but I'm still positive. I would still give this like a a solid rating if I was an IMDb critic.
So,
like an above average.
All right, while we're talking about it, I'll just put it out there.
Talk about it.
A lot of this season was just Annie losing her powers and then randomly getting them back after she killed somebody with her bare hands. And I just didn't understand the timing of that at all. I understand she couldn't have the powers because she couldn't get kidnapped and be vulnerable if she had all that. So I get why they took it away, but anytime you take away powers for a whole season, it just doesn't usually end well. Like Yennefer and The Witcher, not source material, so that was crazy too. It's just like freaking Wheel of Time. I don't know.
And also, we're going to get into this episode, but is the explanation for why her powers went away from that exchange between her and the shapeshifter? He's like, I'm in your head. Like, your powers don't work because you're so
maybe
distraught in your head. Like, is that the explanation? Because at the end of the episode, whoa, Starlight has powers, and
yeah,
that's a 10 out of 10. I'm so glad she can do stuff like that. But
you guys didn't remember the
explanation for a season-long story.
You guys didn't remember the reference that I made for Spider-Man 2 when in the beginning, Peter Parker doesn't have the ability to use his powers because in the original Spider-Man, he doesn't have the ability to use his powers because he's basically in an internal struggle because him and Mary Jane, like they're in a rocky situation. Her Uncle Ben had died, so he's in this weird situation where he can't really use his powers, and what triggers the return of his powers is Mary Jane is about to get killed basically by an errant bus, and like those instincts kind of kick in and trigger him. But I'm just assuming it's just like this whole internal thing with just the stress of what Firecrackers put out into the world, the pressure of her mom and everything is just kind of giving her just like ED when it comes to her powers, essentially.
And projectile dysfunction is what Newman called it.
Yeah.
And I like agree. Like, it's not bad to have that per se in the story, but like they could have made it better where she found her powers and that's what made her escape. Like, it was cool watching her rip like the skins off her hands because she's so determined to escape and save everybody. But at the same time, she figured out her mental block in that moment, used the powers to get free. That would, I feel like, just make so much more sense than sitting in the car and then all of a sudden being like, oh my God, Huey, I'm happy again, and seeing the powers.
And I think you're right too. The fact that she didn't have him for a whole season, that just like hurts any character, really. It's just because it's going to be a season of like finding yourself, and she didn't even really find herself by the end of the season, really, I would even argue. And so we kind of, I won't say wasted time on it, but it just doesn't feel as satisfying.
You want to know my biggest gripe about the whole powers thing is how the fuck is she flying at the very end when she can't use her powers unless she's around electricity? And she is in a countryside and she's a million feet up in the air. And when she,
like when you don't masturbate for a while, Paul, and you do masturbate, it's just all going to come out at once.
That's amazing. Yeah. And then she's just up there and then she doesn't have any fucking powers and then she just falls. Like in season 2, when they're outside of Red River, like the car breaks down and she can't use any powers. The building is like so many thousands of feet away, hundreds of feet away. So if she's up in the air that high, I don't know how she's using her powers and flying.
So I think I said in a previous episode, I'm hoping this is like a metamorphosis for her, that she is going to come out of this and actually be someone with good powers. I'm not even sure if that's like a power mechanism in the boys' universe, if like superheroes can enhance their own powers, but maybe she has kicked the reliance on like an actual energy source and now she's self-sufficient. That's why she can fly like that. Something happened, and that better not be a corner that they cut, is explaining why her powers sucked so bad and then didn't have powers at all. And now she's just a kick-ass like flight person.
If she's
the animation of her flight was incredible, by the way.
Sick.
Her flying, and I always have loved Homelander's like 2 arms over his head and then just pew. Amazing.
And it was awesome. It was a great Annie moment. I just didn't love all the logistics of it. And if you're saying, Brian, like now she can just use her powers whenever she's like in the sun, I'm in. That would be great.
See, that would be a good explanation too, but it feels like they've been telling us electricity for a while, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But maybe we've just made those own assumptions. But maybe she just needs any kind of source of energy.
We're about 15 minutes in, and I swear there are good things that we liked in this
Yeah,
episode.
so I did that intentionally. I kept that conversation going. I wanted to kind of grasp our season long feelings, what we liked, kind of didn't like. So I feel like we got a lot of that done on the front end of this, so we won't have to be bogged down by it at the end. To get us into this episode, the last thing I want to say is that, Paul, you were saying they got a lot of kind of the should be slam dunk storylines like Frenchie and Kimiko. What were we doing all season with that? End of the day, that is not our A storyline. I feel as though the Butcher v. Homelander storyline is in a fantastic place going into season 5.
100%.
Where they left that is exactly where I want it to be.
Yes.
Butcher is powerful and pissed off. Homelander is still Homelander and still Homelander. Nothing else has to be said.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. And Butcher is a lone operator now. The boys, we'll get into what happened to them, but I feel content that they can make something really, really good out of season 5. And I expect it. And it could be a Game of Thrones season 7, but I hope not.
And that's why the show is still, I hate to say salvageable because I don't want to, it's not to me at that point, but it's, as long as the great content stays great, that's all this show really needs. Like Butcher and Homelander has been the content that we've all been craving for every season, and every time they're on the screen is like our butts clenched and we're ready to go. So as long as their story is in a good spot, I mean, as long as that's there, we're good. I feel like we're in a confident spot to be and feel good for season 5.
Yeah, I agree. Everything you guys are saying. The show is basically Homelander, right? And Butcher and them facing off. And exactly what you guys are saying. I love it. This wasn't the best Homelander season because I felt like he was getting overshadowed pretty much. But he was also developing in all these other crazy ways and revisiting his past. So I still loved that setup, the whole story, and where we're going with that. So
it's funny that you mentioned that. Now that I think about it, looking back on the season, you're right. I mean, besides we had him returning home and that crazy episode, like obviously I love that scene. That's one of my favorite scenes in The Boys, probably up until this point. But it does feel like he hasn't been on the screen as much as in the seasons of past. Like we're more so focused on the boys getting the virus essentially and getting that perspective of things, and Homelander is just kind of trying to make his political advance. So, and that's not entirely too camera needed, I guess, if you want to call it that. So yeah, I'm kind of with you now that I'm thinking about it, reflecting on the season. But season 5, I think it's going to be all Homelander, baby.
All right. So after I made my last statement 3 minutes ago, we are now ready to get into the episode. Our poor listeners, you might want to break this one up over a couple days, maybe a couple commutes to work. That is entirely up to you. Or you can cozy up with a nice cup of tea and listen to the full 3 hours of this podcast. But, ladies and gentlemen, it is January 6th. And we have a VNN Today news report. Training A Train is going to be canceled. They figured they could make more off of the tax write-offs.
Heartbreaking.
But also, the Electoral College votes. Congress is dragging their feet, trying to count the votes for Singer and Newman. And then we get this flash to MM is just kind of Frenchie, where's that virus? You got to get the virus. It's not going fast enough. Like stuff is starting to hit the fan. Huey's trying to scramble IDing the shapeshifter. He's coming through like the soup government database. The boys are just scrambling at this point in time. And that is when the shifter, fake Annie, whatever we want to call her, puts on this ball gown or whatever and proposes to Huey.
Although we've been talking a lot of shit on Starlight, I think Erin Moriarty honestly kind of crushed it in this role as being the shapeshifter, in terms of, you could tell that it wasn't quite Annie. She felt almost like a Harley Quinn almost in this embodiment. And I thought this was a really well done performance. So we've been shitting on Starlight enough, but I'll give Erin Moriarty credit for the dual personalities that she represented here, because you could tell that the shapeshifter is just like so crazy and just out of whack, especially with the proposal and everything. Like, that was unbelievable.
I totally agree. Something was wrong, but you couldn't tell what it was. So like you couldn't blame Huey too much because like
Mhm.
she has the memories, she has the knowledge of like even the freaking sex positions that they did. I'm sure she had Annie's memory, so she's not whipping out like things complete. She whipped out a few things new, a few
Yeah,
fingers.
but they just got engaged though. They just got engaged.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. So, exciting times, exciting
Yeah,
new things. But
right.
I agree with you that like I kind of wish Huey would have noticed or said something sooner, but he did notice it, but he couldn't put his finger on it. So I totally understand it. I thought it was a
Mhm.
great job by Aaron Moriarty. Exactly what you're saying.
I'm
That
gonna
was like
already.
my highlight of the episode. I feel like is just the two Annies having a conversation, yelling at each
Yes,
other. It was so good.
I'm already gonna jump the gun a little bit and say though, the fact that Starlight gets mad at Huey for this is like the most ridiculous thing in the world because I mean, I get it would upset you that Huey and the shapeshifter like banged like 50 times, whatever it was. Like I get that, but
Mhm.
he had no idea. Like she stole or the shapeshifter stole Annie's memories. Like she had everything down to the T. And Huey also reciprocates by saying, okay, these are the ticks that made me realize it wasn't you because, like, while she did have the memories, like, there were certain acts that she did that weren't necessarily you. And that's how, and she was still mad. I'm like, what is the problem here? What is the
Best
issue?
line delivery of the episode when he was like, "Oh, it couldn't have been more than 20 times."
Yeah. That was
I
nuts.
I completely agree with you. It's like she's allowed to be pissed, but you got to be like, "Huey, you know what? I just need some space right now. I know you didn't do anything
Yes.
wrong and didn't act maliciously." And also his
Right.
monologue being like, "It was all your quirkiness is why I finally was cued off to it. Like
Yeah.
I love you for you." Like he did a great job handling it. Yeah, that was dumb. I'm glad she did get over it pretty much the next scene, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
And,
Yes.
initially you can be pissed when you find this out. Like, I get it, but she got over it pretty quick, like you guys were saying.
Mhm.
So I don't blame her too much. It was the
Yeah.
initial lash out, and then she was like, you know what? You're getting tested for
Fair.
every STD there is.
Yeah.
yes,
That's a
Huey.
fun,
Yes, Huey.
that's a fine resolution right there. That's a fine deal breaker.
All right. So we move to Butcher, who previously blacked out at the end of the last episode. He didn't lash out in the bar like we were kind of speculating that he might, but definitely has a health episode, whatever. Wakes up in the hospital. Kessler's there, just hitting all the same lines. Singer's going to die. Homelander's already won. You need me. I can juice you up. Otherwise, you're going to die. He's keeping them at arm's length still. And that is when we see an old friend in Mallerie, who Butcher's like, I appreciate what you're doing here. And she's like, it's not for you. And why don't we follow along with this Butcher and Mallerie storyline here? So the next time that we see them is actually when Ryan is brought into the hospital room. And Butcher kind of tells him, hey, you can't go back to the tower. This is like the last time we're going to be able to talk. And you can see that Mallerie has an agenda she's trying to push. And Butcher is still trying to be kind of that father figure and kind of buffer those blows and not be so crass about it, which I have loved. This is the first time this season, and one of the best parts of the season is the fatherly paternal side to Butcher that we've seen. And
Mhm.
instead of jumping the gun and spilling the beans all at once, he's like, yeah, we can play some Connect Four. Let's do it. And then following along with that, I think it was when they get word that Singer had the assassination attempt.
Yes.
And that's when Mallerie just can't keep a lid on it. She's like, we got to act now. And that's when it comes out. The assassination was your dad, Homelander's orders. Flight 37 was also him. He killed everybody on board and has killed hundreds more. And he wasn't having an affair with Becca. He raped her. That's a lot to throw at the kid all at once.
This was like my second biggest gripe with the show is Mallerie became the stupidest individual on the planet for about 5 minutes here. Like
Mhm.
she works for the CIA. She put together the boys. She was fighting against Soups from the beginning. She's like been one of the most coldest calculating leaders. And all of a sudden, she's just like, oh, by the way, here's all this shit. I think of you like my own grandchildren. Like that line got me so mad because she's like, I literally think of you as like my grandchild. And if you don't stay back, I will gas you. It's like, dude, you don't gash your grandchildren. Like she was just all over the place, and I just didn't like that she threw literally everything at Ryan. It's like, dude, no way in hell is just attacking him with all of that like background is going to make him change to your side. Like, what did you expect? And
Um,
I didn't like the threatening either, too. That just made everything so much worse. And I thought Butcher set it up perfectly. He's saying, hey, if you the last thing Becca said to me was make sure that he's safe. So if the safest place you feel is in the tower with Homelander, then I won't say anything. Go ahead and do it. And that was perfect because Homelander just had the freak out with the picture, and Ryan walked away because he was literally screaming and laser and everything. So Butcher had it perfect, and then he freaking was basically setting up Mallerie for the assist, and she just grabbed it and threw it in their own net. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm completely with you. I think this was my biggest gripe of the episode as well. If Mallory just needed to give Butcher legitimately maybe 10 more minutes, and this all would not have happened. Mallory would not be dead. I think Ryan would have been calmed down. There was a way Butcher could have approached the situation, especially how they were bonding here and connecting. Like, this was a really sweet, and I was really enjoying this scene up until this moment, really. And I still don't really understand why she felt the need to do it right then and there. I guess because she knew that Ryan was going to leave at some point and she didn't want him to, but she like had been preventing Butcher from basically doing this before. And like Butcher's inner thoughts were basically telling him, like Joe Kessler at the beginning of the season was telling him to do this exact plan, like basically knock him out and we're going to take him and train him to be the weapon that kills Soldier Boy, Homelander. And now Mallory's taking on that role. Like I don't really see that.
100% agree. That's what I was just about to say. There is no rush. She's like, we got to do it now. They just made an attempt at Singer. He's like, you just said you're going to take him away and train him. Like you said, this is one of the most secure compounds ever. Like,
So I think
Homelander's not going to come in and kill you. Like you had 10 minutes, like you're saying, let alone the whole night to talk Ryan into it, not just say, we need to go now.
I think the urgency came from if Ryan walks out that door and does go back to Homelander, given the current state of everything, Homelander's not letting Ryan out of his sight anymore. Just like,
Which
fair,
I
but
get.
like
they will never have the opportunity to turn Ryan again,
which is
make
fair.
him
But
their-
again, which is fair. I completely agree. That's fine. But just give Butcher 10 more minutes. Like legitimately 10 more minutes.
Ryan wasn't even looking at the door. He had no plans of leaving. And all of a sudden, Mallerie was like, we got to speed this up. Your mom was raped. Like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? That's terrible. That's terrible writing.
I was expecting this to be your biggest gripe with the episode. It didn't sit right with me. It was a bad ending for a character I really liked too. In Mallory, I thought it
Butcher
went
was
against
killing
her
it
entire character.
at the beginning, like you
and
said.
Butcher was killing it. Butcher was absolutely killing it.
But I like how this does trigger Butcher to become the thing that we want him to see. Like that's the benefit, but it's not a great entirely benefit.
I agree. If someone was going to make the switch, this was it. He needed to see Ryan do that. And the fact that Ryan had no remorse after.
Yeah, that's the.
Man, Ryan's got that in him for sure.
He has shown those traits from earlier in the season. We'll see how this affects him going forward, because now he not only like he's it took him for so long for him to get over killing Becca, and now I understand this was like things got heated and he probably in the moment didn't feel the need to feel remorse, but I'm sure like in the next few hours it's going to hit him that he just killed Mallory, and we'll see how that takes a toll on him. But
that was one thing too. I was thinking about this episode. I was like, where's Becca? You were seeing Becca nonstop up until Kessler decided to come out. So like, unless Becca was literally Kessler messing with Butcher, but like, I don't think that's true. I think Becca was its own entity inside Butcher's brain. So like this whole time when he's having conversations with Ryan, I'm like, where's Becca? Why would she not be here to help be her guide? But instead it's just fucking Kessler who's like, kill everything. Which
could have been go ahead.
Dave, I believe it was you, the first one to say it on the podcast. The cancer seems to be its own personality, own being, own individual.
Which
So
I know
you were
you weren't.
saying the V went right to it, and that's
Yeah.
basically what happened.
Which I
So
know you weren't crazy about that idea, and I understand why. But I think the boy's diabolical. I mean, if anything, if you didn't watch it, I mean, this is kind of like a reference to that. Maybe it is a little bit of a too much of a reference because it does kind of take away a kind of a big reveal that none of us really thought would have been possible unless we didn't watch the boy's diabolical. So I'm with you. Like it's cool. It's a cool concept, and I think it works. But the fact that we've already seen it once before does take away a little bit from it.
yeah.
In Diabolical, the power was also like the tentacles, right?
Yeah, it was like a giant like squid or like
It like
would
separated
something.
itself from the
Yeah.
individual too, and they ended up clashing. So, that could be something we see in the future. But
Yeah, this whole scene, I really just hated Mallory's lack of self-awareness and the
Mhm.
fact that she couldn't see that Butcher was making progress. It
Yeah.
was just not like her character, but
totally agree.
Yeah, like
I can't
great
deny
point out. Yeah.
I can't deny I like how this progressed the plot. It gave
Mhm.
Butcher the perfect motivation to flip. All of that I'm pretty good with.
Because we definitely all wanted to, as viewers, we all want to see that scorched earth outcome that they were talking about in season 3 when Homelander and
Mhm.
Butcher meet up. Like we all wanted to see that outcome low key, and we're getting it. So
And not to jump into the next scene where Butcher is, but like when he's in the hospital, he looks gray as hell. He looks like he's on
he
death's
looks
door.
terrible.
Yeah.
I think when Kessler takes over, like all of his hair is like pitch black. He like doesn't have any grays anymore. He obviously looks healthier, but like I'm pretty sure Kessler like changed his physical appearance to like
Interesting.
touch it, or as soon as he got out after the hospital, he just went touch of gray and CVS.
Nah, I was picking up on that same thing, Paul. I think it definitely helps his appearance for sure. So going back to the beginning, I feel like we're gonna save that Newman scene for the end when we get there, when everybody kind of comes together. We kind of touched on it. Homelander has this scene where he dumps out his weird jar of gray hair, and then he finds Ryan's picture of Becca and Butcher, and it's that standoff where he's like, come here, that's an order, like I'm your father, he never will be. And that's really what pushes Ryan to Butcher, but we just covered why Ryan doesn't stay there very long. So Shifter Annie, fake Annie, goes to see the real Annie and starts just rubbing in the whole proposal and the fact that they did butt stuff in her face, which would jar with Annie, who is, a little bit buttoned up. Well, a lot of that would jar Annie, I guess. There's quite a few things about that would jar Annie. But then we kind of have this. I think this was the best example of a scene where Aaron Moriarty was killing it and kind of doing that two sides of the same coin, where like fake Annie was calling her out for, oh, it's everybody's fault except me. Like I was a total bitch on the pageant circuit because of my mom, and I blew deep to stay in the 7, and that was everybody's fault. I totally had to do that, which I'm just reiterating what happened. I am not on that side, but this shapeshifter character was very OP when you understand that she has that mind control aspect of it, or rather just memory aspect to it. And this was just a cool scene.
Yeah, she's recharging, touching Annie, and she's literally reading Annie's thoughts in the moments, like, oh, don't worry about like this, don't worry about him, blah blah blah. So it was really cool. And I think the worst part of this whole thing is I want to see this shifter Annie again, because the whole personality of just that Annie was so fun to watch. It was she was so funny. The way she was just like gargling, pretending to suck Deep's dick, and like killing all through all the insecurities. It was just
You're a psychopath, a sociopath.
Yeah, like she's getting pissed off at that. Like I thought it was so entertaining.
Somebody in the Discord had a pretty cool observation about her, just the nature of her power, how she has to peel away the skin. They said, what if she doesn't have a real fallback identity anymore? She only has the next person she shifts into.
I think I think
Like
they
she
were.
peeled away like her original skin.
Well, not even
essentially,
that. It's just like you can only go to the next person. Like
Okay.
you can't peel back another layer and become yourself anymore.
And I think that was confirmed because, like, Shifter
She
Annie,
said,
Shanny, I'm calling her Shanny,
Hey, I like it.
said like, "Oh, I don't even remember what it looked like anymore. I just remember when it was, and I turned into my teacher." So I think that's exactly like confirmed. They just jumped from the next one to the next one. So it's like that person died. I think they died as Annie with Annie's
dude,
skin
how
on.
traumatizing would that be to be a kid? Just become your teacher, and then all of a sudden your skin just appear like it's falling off, but it's really just you needing to recharge your ability. Like, it's terrifying.
That is terrible.
She said she was what, in like kindergarten or something like that. Like, oh my god.
A lot of these powers would be terrible to
Yeah.
discover when you're a child.
Yeah, in the real
They
world,
all-
the physics behind all these powers, it's honestly probably a curse more than it is a
Yeah.
blessing.
So, as everything's ramping up, Huey makes a phone call to Butcher in his hospital bed. And this is kind of a lovely moment. And I am taking this as Butcher's farewell to the boys because the next time they see him, he's full Kessler mode. And he shares this story about Lenny, how him and Lenny always wanted to visit a topless steakhouse, which sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And he's just like, we wanted to go. It's funny the things you think of when you're on your deathbed. Promise me you're going to go, Huey. He's not at all interested in the singer of it all. And then he just says, tell the boys I'm sorry for everything. It was good. We see a lot of goodness from Butcher this season.
Yeah, I love seeing. I've said it all season. I love when Butcher is actually vulnerable and showing his trust and love for others. But we do love Scorched Earth Butcher a little bit more. So, but this was a really well done scene. I mean, Butcher is just a fantastic character, and I really had high hopes for him, especially here when he's talking to Huey, and he just keeps repeatedly telling him, just like, make sure you go. And Huey's like, are you okay? And he's like, just go. Don't worry about me. And he's like, okay, I'll go. So I still am under the train that I still don't think Butcher's gonna make it, man. Even though like we've maybe confirmed that the parasite is whatever, a separate entity now, and it might be the cancer. I just think he's so sick, man. At the end of the day, like he's already said all these goodbyes, and maybe he'll have one more chance to say goodbye, like in his final moments, but we'll see.
Yeah, I love this scene. Everything you guys said, totally agree. Just not even acting opposite anybody. It's just a voice. I feel like there's something to be said about that. I still think that him and Ryan in their apartment when he throws out the cookies, I think that's my favorite emotional scene from Butcher. But I mean, this one was real close. Like that whole conversation was great. And, I hope that is like a signal that Huey says whenever he meets up with like the new Butcher, like, oh, let's go to that topless steakhouse place, and like the real Butcher like peeks through a little bit and like wants to like take over the body or something like that. I hope there's a reference to it because it really was like a good conversation, especially the remembering Lenny aspect.
It's gonna be Huey by himself in the bar, and it's gonna be like that. What ending of Batman is it with Christian Bale that like Alfred's in France and he's like eating his steak and he looks up and it's like Christian Bale.
It's the last one.
Dark Knight Rises.
It's gonna be like the same thing there, but it's not gonna be like, I think it's gonna be like a hallucination of Butcher. But I just totally foresee something the same. Yeah,
that would be amazing.
So there was a fantastic transition when Butcher hangs up. He lays back in his hospital bed, and then it transitions to like a side frame of Homelander, who was about to get on live air for Truth Bomb with Firecracker, whatever. And this is the bombshell scene where he outs Newman as a soup. This was wild. I was not expecting this to come out this episode.
This was, I thought, fantastic because this was just classic Anthony Starr crushing his role as Homelander. The gears are like everything is just snapping in Homelander's head, and he just comes out like the buzzing he hears or some kind of ringing,
the white noise.
Yeah, and then it's just, why don't you just tell him already? it's so fucking good. His delivery.
Really? An ally, Victoria? It's like he didn't hear a word she said until ally.
Dude, he crushes it. This scene was amazing. This was one of those jaw-dropping moments that it's like, okay, yes, this is the finale of season 4 of The Boys. Like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I mean the laser, just the pure shock after was great. I kind of wish like he lasered her clothes just so you actually saw that there was
Yeah, a
something
little.
applied, and not just like a blip on the screen or
It was
whatever.
so
Yeah.
quick, I will say, yes.
But still, I mean, the reaction was awesome. And like, what do you do if you're Newman? Just like fucking go to your training, go to your
I-
go to your pandering training.
You can't
Well,
do anything.
she played it off so well when he was like, Victoria here is a superhero. And she's like, well, thank you. That's a great compliment. Always the politician, our Newman.
Yeah.
But he totally outs her and
Mhm.
essentially just walks off. Great episode, everybody. Newman is pissed, follows him, and essentially just confronts him about, okay, that just happened. You know what the consequences of that are. Like, they're going to impeach me. I'm not going to be able to ascend through the proper political channels. You don't have any answers for the fallout of what you just did. And he essentially just says the same stuff he always has been saying. It's new world, new rules, singers as good as dead, trains left the station, I'm your only friend, you better fall in line, essentially. And they do a great job this episode of slowly but surely Newman realizes the error of her ways and how she put all of her chips or eggs in the wrong basket.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was interesting when she's rattling off all these things. Like, what about like basically all these issues that will arise? And Homelander's walking away, like his face is like super confused, and he's like, "You don't think I thought of that? Of course I thought of that." Like that's what I kind of mean when I'm saying like Homelander's kind of getting like overshadowed a little bit. It's almost like he's not even getting overshadowed. I feel like the pedestal that he was put on is just lowered so much, because I mean the sister stage thing obviously helps. Like, well, it was the clear indication of that. He needed somebody smarter to guide him, so we knew he wasn't like the smartest. But I still like the mistakes he's making left and right, and how many times he's looked a little foolish. He just seems like so much more vulnerable than I remember him.
Well, you know, that this conversation between him and Newman, where he has to be like, of course I've thought of that. It reminds me when he got rid of Edgar.
Yeah.
And it was his first board meeting, and the chick was like, oh, what about the PBA ratings? And he's like, I forget how he responds, but he's like, do you hate me? Or something like that. It's just so completely ridiculous, his response, because he has no answer. That he doesn't think of the answers to the or the solutions to the issues that he causes. He just is living in his own bubble. It's, oh God, he is such a great villain, and I love it, love it, love it. But that was one of like three those classic The Boys jaw-dropping scenes. I was like, damn, we're doing this right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we get another TV report that the election has been certified, even in the revelation that Newman is a soup. So they pushed it through. Singer, Newman are, I don't know, sworn in, whatever you want to call it. MMM is just like, all right, now it's open season on Singer. We missed our chance to play offense, so now we got to play defense. Frenchie, you just got to hurry your ass up with that cure. Kimiko, Huey, and Shanny. I was trying to think a little bit. Shanny,
Nice.
You're with me. And we find them in Singer's bunker. So one quick scene before that bunker scene is Ashley and Homelander arriving at the 7 table. And Ashley kind of gets, okay, the adults are talking, get the hell out of here. But Newman said, you know, you're going to have to fire essentially half of your staff at Vought, which means kill half of your staff at Vought. And he has Ashley curate a list of anybody who has dirt or leverage on Homelander, who, of course, entrusts Noir and Deep to carry out the deed of doing that. And Deep immediately says, if this is a list of people with dirt on us, Ashley should be top of the list, which is where we get the crazy scene of Ashley taking Compound V.
Which this is wild, because was it this episode too, or was it last episode where she's kind of like, where Homelander's praising her? Is that this episode? Like, does he drop some praises to her?
Yeah, I mean,
he
when
calls
he
her good girl and stuff.
Yeah, and like
You know,
she's
it's
like,
not
but
praise,
she's like,
I wouldn't say.
but she's not. She's enjoying it though, so it just makes me think that it's like, okay, there was I think there's a chance that Ashley can end up on either side, is what I'm saying. Because I thought all season we had been talking about how Ashley's been fitting in kind of with the boys subtly, at least not with the boys, but with A-Train, who's been working well with the boys. And so that team up would have been really cool to see, have her come to our side. But now that like Homelander's kind of seeing her potential, I guess, if you want to call it like that, and now that she's going to become a soup also, Ashley could end up walking a fine line between being on Homelander's side or our side.
Well, we got to see what her power is first.
That's true too.
We know
Any
that
theories?
V like crushes your spine and like makes your body distort as it's taking effect. But there was a definitive like skull kind of bubble that was. Is it going to be like insane brain power or something like that? Mind reading? I don't know. Other than that, I can't even contemplate what it is.
I hope it didn't take well, because how many times did we hear in the beginning of the show, oh, you can't put V into non-soup adults. It just doesn't take well. And, you know, the past like season and a half, we've gotten all these, you know, adults shooting up V for the first time.
Well, Huey's dad is an exception. That didn't work well.
Good. I'm glad it didn't happen. They're sticking to it. Butcher's, you know, basically dead. All the V went to the tumor. And so this one, I hope it doesn't take well. Like, I love Ashley. I hope she survived. And as soon as like Deep is like, shouldn't Ashley be at the top? And Deep was like, yeah. And Homelander, his reaction was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't care. Just get it done. Was perfect. I thought she was done. I thought she was going to do some heroic act.
I was ready to, because I had said on episode 7, I think too, we had final
I was gonna say
death thoughts, and I was like, I put out Ashley, and I was like riding that high for a little bit. I was like, oh my god, I got to bring this up on the pod. I called it. I'm a beast, but no. But I don't know. Maybe I think it could take in a weird way that she becomes like, I mean, we already know her. I feel like it has to be something like hair related or like looks related in a sense, because we know that the wig fell off, and we know that she's like ripped out most of her hair. So I have a feeling she becomes like an ogre or something like that, just like a big, like
I could the Hulk or something.
Yeah, maybe the whole. I don't know, but you're right. It definitely was like brain related or like head related, at least from what we saw.
I would theorize that they will lean into the body disfigurement, the fact that she has a balding head. They're going to make her look grotesque, I think.
Yeah, I think it's either going to be
really cool.
I think it's either going to be grotesque or it's going to be just like the cheesy like hair powers where like she can just like extend her hair out, which would be lame, but like we'll see. But I think it's going to be definitely like a grotesque monster for sure.
All right. The other part of this scene, though, is that Firecracker gets progressively more and more sick, and she blames it on the medicine that she's taking to force herself to lactate. But as we know, Homelander has been drinking this milk. So, assumedly, whatever is affecting her is at least in Homelander's system. When she pours him a glass of the milk and he like gargles it, and it's just like, natural, and gives her a wink, it's like, oh my god.
I think he said like cilantro, as in you ate cilantro and I can taste it in there, and that made me want to fucking throw up.
Dude,
that you just said that.
He has crushed. Like, I never thought drinking milk could just be so grotesque, but Anthony Starr has just taken it to a whole nother level. It's just he savors that shit, man. He loves it. Oh my god!
I think I saw in him in an interview, he was talking about it, and he was just kind of the biggest supporter of bringing that milk back. He was like, hey, like, can Homelander have a glass of milk in this scene? Because like he just feels like it's so funny, but it's just like a little character detail, like a little character.
I think it's also
flaw.
Like it also feels like a power thing. It's like he doesn't need to hide it anymore. It's just like he can be himself, and if anyone says anything about it, he's just gonna kill him.
Dude, if he started breastfeeding at the Seven's office table, I would have lost.
Just like made A-Train in the Deep like watch him breastfeed. So funny. I feel like I had something else that I wanted to say here. Oh, are we so sure that it's the medicine that's doing this to Firecracker?
I thought it was the plague, like the virus for a second.
You gotta assume she's virused up is where my head's at. Oh, I think she's convincing herself it's nothing worse than side effects of the medicine. I don't know where she would have gotten the virus, though, is my thing.
That's what I was just that was what I was going to ask.
Although there was a little bit of time not accounted for where Newman was in possession of like the only virus in existence, which
Like, is maybe
we didn't like, know what I'm saying? When she
like
got it from Cardoso or whatever.
Could Sage have had a part in it, like her being sick potentially? I mean, like I think Sage also. I want to also quickly bring up that Sage had such a great turnaround. I think like she came in hot, real hot. I think it's a great character, and then kind of dipped a little bit, showed some weakness, but it all ended up being a part of the plan. So I really want to give my hats off to Sage here. I think she ended up being a fantastic character, and she really does terrify me, honestly. So hats off to her.
And she is seemingly a ride or die officially for Homelander too, which is frightening. I don't know how else to put it. But moving on, we have a pretty insane scene in the Bob Singer bunker. It is, of course, our boys, including Shani. And I do like how this scene unravels, how Huey figures it out because she uses that line, "It's hot as a furnace in here," and Annie never sweats. So he's like, don't ask me how I know. It's Annie. Obviously, you have the dude who is prone to panic attacks and squirrely Huey that are the two people that have to play it cool when Shani confronts them for a conversation. She sees doing the hand clasp thing. Gripe number one is Huey and should be dead. They were thrown into a concrete wall.
Yeah.
Don't show them get hit that hard if you aren't going to kill them off.
I was genuinely nervous. I thought was dead as soon as they threw him against the wall. And then all of a sudden he's up and running. And I'm like, wait, shouldn't he be more hurt? That was like no humans break their ankles by stepping wrong, let alone being chucked against a concrete wall. So I agree there. And it was just so funny. Exactly what you're saying. The two worst liars, probably, like, got to keep it cool. And they're like itching and grabbing the water bottle and tearing everything off. Hey, Annie was good. Oh my god.
I was cringing so hard, but it was so funny. Because it is hard.
Assuming she always is hot because she like has another layer of skin on her, or like
interesting. No, yeah, that's definitely what it is. It has to be that like she's probably just she's wearing multiple layers of skin that it overheats her.
Yeah, it's like peeling off, but like, I don't know, something like that. But that's why
cool. I like that, Paul. I like that.
Or consistent, like she's just not super sensitive to heat or something like that. Like there was a reasoning behind it.
What we find out about Shani is that she doesn't mess around in a scrap. When she threw that Secret Service dude and like his spine was just like at a right angle, like around a table, she just threw some chick against a coat hanger and like her skull was just impaled there. So this kind of escalates. Kimiko gets Singer through like the massive door, and then it becomes a one-on-one Kimiko versus Shani. You know what I have to say about Kimiko is that someone giving her trained assassin background should probably be better in a 1v1 scrap.
I was really thinking that in this moment. I was like, what kind of background does Shapeshifter have that she's taking on Kimiko, who is like a child trained warrior who was threatened to be killed whenever she spoke, and yet Kimiko's like out here losing to the Shapeshifter. So unless like if they had like told us in the past that like Shapeshifter is like ex-military or something, like okay, cool, I'll buy that. But like no background whatsoever, and she's out here beating Kimiko. I was a little weirded out by that.
I totally agree. Kimiko got her ass kicked this entire season. Like she ran through some like normies, but like whenever she had like, especially Zoe, I was so mad that she lost to Zoe episode 1, and they have a cute little like stare down later on. But totally agree with everything you guys are saying. Like, you'd expect her to be able to scrap a little bit. And like, I don't understand where like soups were vulnerable at one point in this show, but now every soup we see, I just feel like you can't fucking kill. Like this shapeshifter, it's one thing if bullets deflect off you, but they were literally going through her and into her. And I was just like, you're not even healing. You're just like taking it all. So like, how are you not dead, if all of your organs just
Well, I
aren't
guess then
working.
maybe we can
Yeah.
argue about the whole multiple layers of skin thing, that it's just like,
But like it's going through her. So like
yeah, no, I agree.
if
It
it
does feel
deflected
weird.
off her, if it did, like with all like Newman, they just made her bulletproof out of nowhere one time, and it's just like, all right, whatever. But it's the same thing with her. It's like bullets are going through her, not deflecting off her. Where like I don't know, and I know they made it a whole,
Super regeneration, as well as being able to impersonate anybody. Like that feels like
yeah.
a stretch.
And just the whole thing with the Deep too, just last episode, just leaving his body there because all of a sudden he's just like super impossible to kill, even though we beat that to death. I'm not going to bring it up, but I just it seems out of nowhere all these soups are just super impenetrable. So I don't know.
Yeah, and they use it when it's convenient to them and not. Like Sage isn't impenetrable, and they've never really defined why some are versus aren't. Maybe it's something they'll touch on season 5, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Where this scene ends up, though, is MM and Huey are trying to get through the password protected door. Shani, of course, takes her time cornering them in the corridor, which I hate this trope. It allows real Annie just enough time to make the save. And then the excuse is that she used Huey's Find My Friends phone, which, yeah, that would show up a mile deep in a presidential bunker. Fat
Dude,
chance, Gidget.
But then hated that. Hated that so much.
Her crowning achievement is when she's choking her out, which is it was a lame fight for Annie. And then she's like, I don't even know who I am, but I'm the bitch beating your ass. I was just like, okay, let's just get this over with, on to the next scene. It was such like the fight scene was cool. I hate the trope of the hero saves the day, like arrives just in the nick of time, unless there's like a really good reason why it's just in the nick of time. But she just showed up. Find My Friends app. It's like, okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, okay, the Find My Friends app got me so mad because all right, say it showed Huey's last position before he went into the bunker, so it's like out on the street or whatever. How the hell did she get in? Like, there's all these doors and security codes, and MM made it a point, and somehow she just like finagles her way in, finds the right hallway. And it's exactly what you're saying, just enough time to save them. It's just like, come on. Like, I know it's a superhero show, but like, God, make it just a little realistic for like some other aspects. It's just like, how'd you do this? Oh, I did that. Okay. And then move on. It's just, they're giving excuses, but like the excuses are not satisfactory.
It's not okay when there's 3 of those every single episode this season. You know, I can let everybody gets one. I feel like
I feel like everybody would take Kimiko over Annie in a fight, right? So how does Kimiko get her ass kicked, and all of a sudden Annie comes in and kills the same person?
So what I will say is that Kimiko had Shani pinned down, and then Huey and MM were like running past that one-on-one fight to go catch up with Singer, and she kind of looks back and gives them a look. And at that point is when Shani got the upper hand on her. I didn't love it, but there was an instance where she let her guard down and the tide turned. So I won't hate on her that much for it. But you know I'm always going to hate on Starlight until proven otherwise.
Well, it's just like, again, this was supposed to be her big moment, her big scene. And that line, like you're saying, I actually liked where she was going in the beginning of it. She was like, maybe I don't know who I am. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. A little self-realization. But then like the end of that is like, I'm the bitch killing you. Like, I was like, really? I don't know.
It was bad.
In the past, they haven't, like, the boys has been very fluid when it comes to like content and badass scenes. Like, I always think of Starlight, Kimiko, and Maeve just kicking the shit out
I was just gonna say
Stormfront.
Girls do get it done. It was like,
that was like, that's hot and sexy, but this did feel like a little bit forced, like for the boys. This just felt a little out of place for sure.
This felt like a Marvel, like timing and one liner right at the end.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And we were making fun of Marvel with the Endgame scene where all the chicks came, and then we were like, see, this is how you do it. Like, the girls do get it done. And like Frenchie like freaking out in the season 2 finale. So it just feels like the show regressed.
Yeah.
I think these are valid criticisms. We're a very good podcast. We play both sides, guys.
Yeah.
We keep them honest, baby. Okay, so we do get Homelander watching the news, and the fallout is that Singer's assassination attempt failed. So he gets a call from Newman, essentially just a reminder, your assassination attempt failed. That was a pretty pivotal part of our whole plan. And Homelander goes into defensive mode and goes crazy and says, you know what? You're going to be my puppet still. This changes nothing. You're going to do exactly what I say. And if you fall out of line, I'm going to kidnap Zoe and I'm going to send you pieces of her every year until you die. And then I'm going to kill her. So if Newman didn't already get it, she gets it now. And that leads us next scene. She calls Huey for help.
The one thing I will say here is we've seen Homelander get so emotional when people betray him. And it's like, it's when you do things like this, Homelander, that is why people betray you. Like, you're going to get all upset when Newman leaves you because, you know, you like, she's a soup too, but then you go out of your way and you threaten her like this. And he's going to still sit there and be like, why did she leave me? And it's like, maybe because you threatened her fucking family, but this is like a tiny complaint still, but he is still so threatening though at the end of the day. Like when he is telling her like I will send you pieces of her like every day, like that is just so fucked up.
Yeah, every year for the rest of your life.
I mean,
is
like
what he was saying.
It's so like he does a great job, but at the same time it's like maybe tone it back a little bit if you want some friends, you know.
This
like,
is
if you actually want them.
Another similarity to season 3 after he got rid of Edgar and the weight of the world starts falling on him and he just has that scene where he's like, why is this happening to me? Why do these things keep happening to me? And it's just like, bro, the mental gymnastics.
It's because your evil sides is doing this thing and then your good sides, like, it's so funny.
The consequences of my own actions once again. So the boys, kind of a funny scene. The boys all reconvene at the lab where Frenchie is like, oh, I'm the biggest genius in the world. He gives the smooch to the virus and then he looks up. Everybody has their ass kicked. And then Kimiko just gives him a wave. That was a lovely Kimiko moment.
Adorable.
That was good. Yeah.
This is where we get kind of the Annie and Huey hashing it out. Like they're all just licking their wounds at this point. That's really all it is. I don't know if you guys want to touch on any of that. And then the Newman call to Huey. I kind of liked her monologue where she's like, listen, I know you offered me this olive branch before shit hit the fan, but now I see I'll do anything. I'll step aside politically. Just do whatever you have to do to get me and Zoe safe. You're the only one I can trust, Huey.
Yeah. And you know, what sealed the deal is I will give you the location of my daughter. And Huey was like, all right, well, if she's given me that, her like number one weakness, basically, then, you know, she's got to be telling the truth. And like the turn did make sense. We just talked about the Homelander phone call. Like, of course, Newman knows she's fucked. And like, she didn't know all the details of the plan. We learned last episode, she didn't even know about the camps. So
yeah, like, Homelander only told her like we are just the superior beings, like we should just rule like we are, like we should, and she bought into that for the whatever, like the 10 minutes there, but now she's kind of realizing Homelander's lost it.
I forgot to make this point earlier when we were talking about Ryan, but when Mallerie drops all the truth on him, one of those things was that Homelander orchestrated the assassination of Singer, and he was like, "You're lying." He was in the room when Homelander was telling him or all the 1% of the 1%ers, the coup plan. He was literally right next to him, listening to all of that. That should not have been a surprise to him.
No, not at all.
And I took note, it was after that revelation that he said, "You're lying." And then she said the other subsequent things about the rape and what have you. But that was just bad writing, in my opinion. That was a hole in their writing. Ryan should have been privy to that already. We even commented he didn't even need to be at the Tech Night party. He didn't do anything. He was just there.
So ridiculous.
That's an L. That's an L.
Agree.
Okay, so next scene is Deep Noir and Firecracker hunting down all of the Vought employees, which was insane. And each of them have their little moment. Firecracker is just crazy sick at this point. Deep is just asking for validation and then kills the guy anyway. And Noir gets his murder boner. I'll open the floor to you guys to comment.
No, this is I thought a great scene, to be honest. Like Deep is just so fucking funny. And then the new Noir, I've been loving him too. I was cracking the fuck up the whole time.
Tell me I'm the best and the strongest and the smartest. Besides Homelander, of course.
Yeah.
He's like, you're the smartest. And he's like, you're just telling me that because you're scared.
You're scared.
He's like, no. Well, guess what? It's enough for me, bro. And then just the fist, which he was a key player, man. We saw him, well, not a key player, but he was a recurring character. We've seen him a few times. So,
he's been around for a while.
These aren't just like throwaway deaths. Like Firecrackers was a throwaway death, but Deep's kill and then Ashley. They're like, oh, I thought this was Ashley. Everybody's fucking named Ashley here, and just the
like
casual
no, bro. It's like that's not Ashley, bro.
the bro talk just came out of nowhere last episode, but it's sticking, and I fucking love it. They're just they're murder.
I'm
bros.
here for the bromance.
Oh,
I'm here for the bromance.
It's so funny. There's the sword sticking out of Ashley, the casualness of it, and they're like, bro. You messed up, you silly goose. Like,
it's just
so casual.
It's so funny.
Noir's swords are awesome, but they would be so impractical against like a superhero that, as we've commented, is bulletproof. But they are cool.
Yeah.
So moving on, the next scene is essentially Huey's pitch to the boys. Like, hey, I know Newman's Newman, but if we're going to fight these monsters, maybe we need to fight them with a little bit of humanity and stop steeping to their level. Our answer to everything is murder people. Maybe Newman's just scared and afraid like all of us were before we joined the boys. Like something is inherently wrong, and I think we need to kind of turn the tide and start being better people if we want to fight the Homelander-esque monsters. I thought it was a great pitch.
Oh, absolutely. I thought this just how they tied everything together to just how we have been losing. Like the boys have been losing a little bit of their humanity, just wanting to go around just killing everybody. And I think this realization of, now officially confirming, humanity versus soups. I think it's just so cool that Huey and the way that he put it was just really beautiful, I thought. And I thought I was hyped. I was so hyped to get Newman coming over and to join our side. And like, we have a piece that it was like the second strongest character now joining the boys side. And like the whole piece to humanity being forgiveness and just learning from the mistakes of the past. And Huey crushed it, man. I think Jack Quaid's been I think this has been Jack Quaid's season for me. Like this is Huey's season.
It's interesting, and I don't even want to credit the writers at this point because it might just be a coincidence. If this was done on purpose, then very well done. But like, I think it was 2 seasons ago, he's given a speech like towards the end of the season, and he's saying, I'm useful. Like, I know I'm not the strongest, but like, I can be, I think he calls himself like Harry Potter or something like that. Like he was like, he was like, I can be useful. I can be like the guy that comes through because they're talking about this big daring plan that they're going to go do. And now it's the opposite. He's like, yo, like maybe we don't need to be the strongest in the monsters. Maybe we can just like fall back to our humanity side and solve the problem that way. So it was like the same, like we can do it, like give me a chance speech, but it was almost the opposite side. So it was really interesting to see just, Huey's growth and character. And he made a point. He's like, dude, I don't even flinch at blood anymore. And now I just, everything with my dad, like I didn't care.
Yeah, I know how to whip up drugs now too. Like he is 100% a different person.
So I think, even with everything that Newman did with that pitch, I would, if I was I'd be like, fuck it, man. What else do we have?
Yeah, we literally have nothing to lose because they've been saying it. Like the end of the world is basically upon them. And it's like, what's the difference of us dying now if Newman comes here versus us dying in a few months when Homelander just kills everyone?
And I gotta say, I don't know why they did Annie so dirty this season, but every time they bring up a new plan that's like slightly risky, and he's like, "You gotta be kidding me!"
Every time, dude, across the board.
It's so annoying. It's like they just made her try to be the voice of reason, but it's not actually the voice of reason. It's just like, oh, you came with a new plan. Like, come on, bro. Like they didn't need to do that here.
Yeah.
She's like, what do you want to do? It's like, really? That's your reaction after everything that fucking happened? So, I don't know. I don't know why they did it this season, but they did.
They did her dirty this season. It is well documented. But This is where Annie forgives Huey, tells him you're getting tested for everything in the book. And we have that Frenchie and Kimiko heart to heart where she's like, when I told you should get with Colin, I was lying. I just thought you deserved someone better than me. And then he says, Moncour, there is no one better than you, which
you hit that Moncour so well. You hit that.
Practiced.
This is all I wanted. That's amazing.
One season too late, but I agree.
Great.
This is all I wanted.
I wanted them together, and I felt nothing when it happened because there was nothing leading up to it, and I already resigned myself to them not getting together because of last season. So this was total bullshit.
Yeah,
I'm happy they got together. I'm happy they got together.
This season would have been so much better if they were just happily in a relationship all season and we're just like the happy peanut gallery commenting in their little love bubble while all the shit is like flying around them.
And especially with like how many people were like foreshadowing Frenchie's death. It's just like it could have been it's still, no matter what, works out better if you just let them be together at the start of the season. So that way, either way, there's going to be, we don't need the up and down of like, are they going to be together? It's more of a matter of like, what are they going to survive together is what I'd rather see. And if they're together at the beginning of this season, and sure, if they have some bickering going on, that's fine. But as long as they're together from the start, rather than just introducing us to Colin, who I'm assuming now
brought him up,
might not even. I mean, the boys will. I have faith that they'll probably bring him back as in terms of maybe like a death, like it's just like a side death in the final season. But
yeah, okay,
because I don't think because like it's just as a reference, like how they've brought and killed like Ashley 2.0 and like all those characters that we've seen throughout the season. I feel like Colin could be like one of those characters in the next season that just suffers a fate. It's just a familiar death, essentially.
If he doesn't come back season 5, he was the biggest waste of screen time in the history of TV. Like,
that's what like they've put themselves in a horrible spot where it's like I'm not really happy either way. I guess like I'm more happy.
I don't want to see him. Like I don't want him to come back because I hated
put
that
themselves
whole
in this pickle.
Yeah, and that's what's like frustrating because like the only way it's like redeeming and makes sense is if Ryan comes back next season with revenge and like wants to kill Frenchie or like is the antagonist. But I don't want that anymore because Frenchie's with Kimiko. So I want them to live happily ever after. I don't want Frenchie to fucking die.
Like, yeah, and that's the thing. And if they were together at the beginning of the season, if he does end up dying, then it just makes it more impactful of like, holy shit, like Frenchie just died after being together with Kimiko. Like it's just ship them together at the beginning, you know?
The other thing I will say is that they have had Kimiko and Frenchie be that close to happiness when they had their first kiss in the hospital. And you were like, oh, they're finally going to be together. And that's when little Nina like ripped them apart again. And they weren't able to have their happy moment, even though they were right on the cusp of it. I feel like they did that again this season because as we see, like, everything's falling apart, but they have their passports. At least they're together, assumedly going to go to France or whatever. And to jump the gun, Kate and Sam separate them. Kate mind controls him, so God knows what Vaught's plans are for Frenchie, but Kimiko is left separate. So they once again have done this thing where, oh, they're finally together. Like, now we're ripping them apart, where they could have at least had a season of happiness. Right. Oh, it's upsetting.
Yeah, I agree. All agreed. All in agreement here.
You said that. You were like, all right, I'm not going to comment on it. Frenchie and Kimiko. I already said my piece, and then I fucking unload. So.
Rant. Yeah.
Sore subject.
So Newman arrives at the boys' hideout, and this is where stuff starts to accelerate here. Frenchie's one-liner of, oh, you took your braces off since last time I saw you, and Newman's just like, yeah, let's not do that. I love Newman. I love Frenchie. I don't care for Zoe because her power's gross. Yeah, that's my whole thing.
Yeah, Zoe's just a weird character, right? And this whole scene, obviously horrific. Especially Butcher comes in, the tentacles come out, no deals. That line's like, oh no, what's he say? Oh god, it's intense. Zoe didn't make a fucking peep, did she?
She
gets knocked
right-
out right away. Like Butcher's
right
like
when the tentacles come out, her
Yes.
tentacles come out
Okay.
as well, and then she gets bitch slapped by Butcher
You're
tentacle.
totally right. She gets
Mhm.
taken out in the beginning. Totally
Mhm.
forgot about that.
this was so shocking. And I do like how they had Butcher aware enough to his first move was tentacles around the eyes. I don't know if you guys caught that. Like that was the
Oh, yeah.
first thing that
Oh,
came
yeah.
out. And I think that's just like such a great play by Butcher to nullify Newman's powers. And the fact that he just rips her in half, I could not believe what I was watching. Like this
Dude.
was unbelievable to me. And like I love Newman as a character, and it felt, I guess, for a split second seeing her get taken out so quickly and so easily. But like this is what how am I going to complain about this? Because Butcher's just now reached another level of not only strength but just brutality and just he diabolicalness. Like it's so awesome. Like this scene definitely was unbelievable. I cannot wait for season 5. Butcher is just going to cause so much havoc. He's going to be a problem. I think the boys are going to have to find a way to stop him at this point. Like he is going to be an enemy. It's now the boys versus Homelander versus Butcher. Essentially, it's a 3-way square off.
So it is interesting because some aspect of Butcher is still in there because Huey, before he knows that Butcher is unhinged right now, he makes his plea like, I know what you're thinking, but trust me, just trust me. And he puts the hand on his shoulder and then throws him away. But like, he could have destroyed everything here. But once Newman had been neutralized, Zoe's out of the picture, he does kind of just converse with the boys in a threatening aura sort of way, but he's still like, Frenchie, give me the virus. Like, he knows that they're humans and not inherent enemies, I guess.
And they're not like him. Like he understands that they're not like him and they're not gonna put up a fight over something like this, essentially.
What I will say is Frenchie did have the opportunity to stop him here.
I didn't know it was going to happen.
Although there was only one virus bullet. I'm not sure what Frenchie's rationale is, that bullet needs to be intended for Homelander by default if he couldn't pull the trigger against his old friend Butcher, or what it was. I'm just saying Frenchie had the opportunity to take Butcher out, whatever happens season 5.
I don't blame him for not doing it. I mean, like you said, like we don't know if that's the only syringe that we are capable of getting. If it is, then are we really going to waste it on Butcher, who somewhat has the same goals as us? Like it's such a tough position to be put in, and like I feel for them, man. And it's crazy. This was a great. I think this was obviously the best part of the episode. We ran through a lot of the issues with it, but I think this was a good. This is what, like, this and the next scene that we're going to talk about is what the saving grace of this episode and potentially season 4 was for me. Like this moment.
I don't blame Frenchie either for not pulling the trigger. He did. I assume he only saw Butcher for 30 seconds to a minute. He did not understand how much of a monster he actually became. You know, you see the tentacles, but like after all, it is Butcher. So I don't blame him. What I am confused about a little bit is why in that laboratory, like Butcher didn't destroy every piece of equipment, did he? So it's like, couldn't Frenchie maybe gone back and created another one if they really wanted to go with Kill Homelander? But the vibe I got is once Butcher did that, the boys were like, fuck it. Like, we're done. We're just,
like,
we got to
know,
bail
like,
and hide and be safe.
Like whatever they drained out of the leg in terms of the virus, like, I don't know if there's still some in the leg potentially. Like I have no idea. Does Newman still have like the ample amount of stock of it, or is that like kind of just all tested and wasted and gone now? I guess
I think it's all destroyed. I think it all got destroyed on the farm, and she
it's
made
legitimately just the syringe that we have left.
She made a comment about like Samir coming back, but like I don't think he's working on the virus anymore or anything like that. That conversation was funny though, because Huey was like, "All right, the leg was a little fucked up."
Glad you two had a chance to catch up. That was funny.
Yeah.
So why don't we get into this next scene? And this is where Homelander's watching the news. He's like crying in fetal position, knows that all of his plans have been dashed. Newman's dead, so we won't be having a soup president. Oh crap. And then Sage arrives. And Dave, you loved this scene, seeing Sage.
Dude, I have chills right now, to be honest.
Oh, this is a celebration. Where's Ryan? This was all for him, right? Like we won. This was all the plan, and we got here in a roundabout way, and I had to call some audibles, but no, we're right on track. And I mean, she correctly identifies Newman would have been a terrible puppet president. We couldn't have let that go through. So Singer gets ousted because she releases the video of him admitting that he tried to assassinate Newman. Newman obviously is dead. And I guess since the election has been certified, they were the president, vice president. So it now defaults to the Speaker of the House as the third in line for the presidency, which is Representative Calhoun, who we have seen a couple times, but obviously he's going to be a more influential figure in this show next season, or maybe he won't. He's a puppet, but he is a much more malleable puppet. So phones for you, Homelander. He's ready to pledge his allegiance, and this is just music to Homelander's ears.
Yeah, dude. That was nuts. Homelander was literally defeated, clutching Ryan's backpack because Ryan was gone, and Sage comes in all happy cheery. His reaction was like, "What the fuck are you doing here in the first place?" And yeah, her like rebuttal almost to like everything she was storing up, she just like unloads and was like, "Dude, this was the plan all along. Like, I knew you were going to be you. I knew you weren't going to listen to me. I knew you were going to be difficult." And at the very end, when she was like, "I just wanted to see if I could. Like, thank you so much for this opportunity."
Dude,
I was like,
wicked.
You're fucking almost more evil. No, you're not more evil. She might be more evil than Homelander. I mean,
she's trying to. She's just as about genocide as Homelander is, essentially. So and that's
not even
evil.
Because she wants to rule. She just wants to see if she can do it. So that's like more psychopathic.
Yeah,
maybe.
I would agree.
She doesn't do the act per se, but like she's fine telling Homelander to tell a bunch of other people to go kill people. So she is like super fucked up.
She's the real puppeteer. Homelander's going to wear the crown, but she's operating from the shadows, and that's where she thrives clearly. And
so the video, how I assume Shani had a camera on her or whatever
somehow, yeah,
and was live feeding that back, because
is that what it was? Are we talking about like the broken TV in the background where Robert Singer is saying like what he says?
Yeah,
I thought that was like
an
interview. Like I thought someone was like catching him like out of the way.
The video was from the bunker when he said to had you killed Newman like I ordered you to, we wouldn't be in this mess. So that was taken this episode, and Shani is the only person we know that was working on the inside. Paul, that was another one where I'm like, okay, but she died. So how did she transmit that out? How did she know to be videotaping right in that moment? Like, were
She's
they
in a bunker? Probably won't live feed if.
Well, no, they have terrific Wi-Fi there, and it's open to the public. There's no password on that Wi-Fi, so
yeah, of course.
It's the least internet secured bunker out there. But
I could have swore I don't think it was. So I'm watching it right now. Like he is out of the bunker. And it's like some just like TMZ dude just like running up with a camera and
so that's him subsequently being arrested.
Oh, okay.
Because that video, the president can't try and assassinate the vice president. Once that video was released,
yes, okay,
he was subsequently arrested.
The one thing I'll add too is we had always been questioning the Notebook, but it was just the plan. I mean, we kind of knew that at the same time that it was like the plan, but we didn't really like know for sure. If Homelander just like opened it up and read it once, he would have known from the beginning that this was all going to work. And I don't know, this also reminded me, Paul, I don't know, you had an issue with the present for Ryan being under his tree. If that came from Sage, does that make you feel worse or better about it?
So much better. Oh my God.
True.
That makes so much sense, because her notebook was just kind of in Homelander's room.
And like she would know, and dusts it off. Like if she just like looked at Butcher, I'm sure like, or like heard him speak, like she would know like how he talks and like Mr. Cunt and like all that stuff. Like I feel like she could have also been. That's what, for some reason, that was like one of the things that I just like first thought of when I saw this. I was like, she could have easily put that present there to like initiate the Ryan and Butcher talk, and just like played it out from there essentially, and just know that they were gonna like get to a point of breaking.
I would love that. I don't know why she would like you're talking about the point of breaking to the point where he leaves, I guess, to go to Butcher. But like if she knew that Ryan was going to kill somebody and then turn, like,
I don't know.
There's like a lot of assumptions in her plan that I don't really understand. Like even
and I don't think we're ever gonna get that, unfortunately. But
yeah, like we could sit here and speculate till the cows come home and then just sound like idiots. But like I just want to know, like when she was talking about curveballs, she was talking about Newman dying, right? That was like one of the curveballs.
Yeah,
well, and then she was planning on,
because she says that was a curveball. She was like, but this is a good curveball, right? Because she would have been too hard.
Yeah.
Because she, like, I would not understand all of her like grooming of Newman basically to go make the speech at the party with all the 1%ers and stuff like that. Like, I feel like Newman was supposed to be a big part of the plan, and that fell through. But Sage was like, we can still do it.
And why did Sage come in with the balloon for Ryan? Like, what was she in her head celebrating for Ryan?
Oh, like, well, Homelander's whole thing was to create a better world for Ryan and the next generation. Like same as Newman. Like Newman's doing it for Zoe.
Oh, it's like, welcome to the new world. Like it's yours.
Yeah.
Like okay.
Homelander's moral justification was to create a better world for the kids.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, and I mean, she leaves it with, "I told you you could trust me. I got your back, even though you sent me out with the trash." Like Paul said, why would you do this? Just to see if I could, and buckle up for phase 2. And we kind of see a glimpse of phase 2. That is Calhoun at the podium saying, "I'm declaring martial law as my first act as president to deploy superheroes nationwide who will report directly to Homelander." He tries to continue, and Homelander's like, "That's great, President Calhoun." And Homelander takes the podium. Yeah, he pins the Newman murder on deep state starlighters. He keeps going with the rhetoric we've heard all season, and the propaganda mill is turning and churning. And over this narration of Homelander just saying what he's saying, we get kind of what happens to the boys. They exchange passports and go their separate ways. Zoe, which is a great full circle, finds her way to Red River, which she would have just went to a normal home.
Yeah,
which would have been way better than Red River.
Newman didn't inject her. I still think that was the dumbest thing Newman's done. I was like, oh, this is for your safety, and it ends up fucking ruining her.
Hey, hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, true. Not mad about it.
The Frenchie and Kimiko of it all, I already alluded to. Sam and Kate show up. Sam just restrains Kimiko. Sam is just a cold-blooded killer, man. He is crazy, and I still maintain Kate's compulsion power is, if that works on Homelander, she is the strongest in the game.
Yeah.
She could flip at any moment because she is in Homelander's inner circle. She's been in like the 7-table room. She could just be like, Homelander, listen to me until you die.
These ending scenes, these ending montages were fucking incredible. From Kate and Sam, like Kimiko, one of physically stronger people that we're aware of, gets a good lick in on Sam, doesn't even flinch at the punch. So that's already just a sign of just a sign of how strong he is. And the sadness that I was overwhelmed with when, of course, now we get the heartbreak of Frenchie and Kimiko getting separated. And I'm sure Sam or Kate told Frenchie, go walk for the rest of your life, like she told her brother whatever years ago.
No. Vought has
plans. It was he was like get in the van or something like that. Yeah.
But I'm not sure what, but he's renowned chemist.
Of course, gets love sausage. Like,
oh, I was like, oh, come on, seriously, you're gonna recruit that guy? Like, out of everybody, that's who you're gonna recruit?
Of course, he's the one that gets though, of course. And then who's the last? Oh, and the
Cindy.
Fucking dude, another great full circle.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, I was so
That was
hyped
season
to see
2,
her.
right? Season 2
yeah,
was
Yeah,
season
that would have
two,
been
yes.
Stormfront stuff.
Yes.
So
Oh,
my thing
man.
about that is Cindy, they're gonna have to connect some dots because she should have no love lost for Vought. So I'm not sure why she would go to Homelander and be like his attack dog and complete a mission like this.
Well, I mean,
Unless-
he's also he can understand her pain too of like, okay, Vought created
fair.
us, and sure we're quote unquote working for Vought, but like at this point they are Vought, so they can make it
Mhm.
however they want. But
That's
I think
true.
it's a trauma bonds.
She's probably pro soup, if
And it's
not
just-
pro Vought.
It's a soup world now too.
Mhm.
So if they did,
I think
find
Vaught's
her,
just a name now. It's just like I think it's just like a brand, like a I don't know how you want to call it. Like I don't think like obviously Homelander hates Vought, and I think a lot of soups honestly probably hate Vought, but just because they already have that global recognition and like favoritism with people, they can just use that name to just keep their influence and ideas going
No,
forward.
agreed.
Yeah.
So the biggest takeaway from this end scene with Frenchie and Kimiko's screaming at the end.
Oh
She
yeah,
didn't know.
she talks. Yeah. How?
Oh
do
my
we not
God.
even- yeah.
I was kind of getting goosebumps there. With everything that I was so upset about, I saw that and I was like, wow.
Yeah, like the last
that
10
strikes
minutes,
a chord.
like the last 10, 15 minutes, I think were incredible, but still, like there were so many complaints of the season and of this episode too. But I think this last 15 minutes is like a good sign for us of, I think next season is just going to be like pedal to the metal. There's no room for like Colin's side story. There's no room for anything. Like all of them, they have now all become like side story in the ultimate quest to just, and it's just going to be great. It's going to be fucking great.
My last complaint after you said all that, put a fucking cap on the needle, would you, Butcher? You got the last virus ever, and you got the needle point just out
that's
and
fair.
about. I was just like,
woo!
it'd be like, yeah, you drop it and it goes in your thigh. You're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
So that was my last thing, but it was cool, you know, the whole Kessler and the rearview mirror thing. And we already talked about Huey and Starlight, and you know, it's devastating that they were finally happy going together, but splitting off. And Huey's captured, Kimiko, Frenchie, they're all captured. Starlight is the only one to get away, right? I mean, obviously, because MM.
Yeah, she
MM
is
got knocked
legitimately
out.
the only
Starlight
one.
and Butcher.
Yep.
If you still count Butcher as one of the good guys.
So where's Starlight gonna go? Do you think? Is there gonna be her first way to reach out?
So she's got to go to Butcher. Who else does she have? Like Homelander is literally pinning everything on the Starlighters, and she
can go to
is
Colin.
Starlight. Yeah.
How fucking dare you? Are you fucking serious? Get out of here.
Yeah, Colin, I'm trying to restart Starlight House. Can you help me with some volunteer work, bro?
Yeah, I don't know.
Ashley, could she go with Ashley?
I mean, if we even know if Ashley's communicable. True, we didn't get end cap on A-Train at all.
What about
well, he dipped.
Stan Edgar?
Yeah. Well, Edgar's gonna hear the Newman news.
Yeah.
Too,
Jesus, we haven't even talked about that perspective.
Pissed.
Yeah.
I don't know where
they
I
might have
go.
to. I think the boys do have to work with. I think obviously Stan Edgar does have to come back. It's just a matter of who is going to reach out to Stan Edgar first. Is it going to be the boys? Is it going to be Starlight? Is it going to be who knows?
Imagine she goes to the Haitian Kings again and be like, "Hey, let me hang out in your basement like old times."
Yeah.
I don't know what her move is. Maybe she makes a pit stop in Iowa and we see her mom again.
Dude, I was thinking, I was going to bring that up, but that would
bearings again, go back to her roots, rediscover her powers. But like,
if we open up season 5 with her mother, I'm gonna fucking hate myself.
Her mom would probably call Homelander on her too.
Yeah, probably.
Her mom's the worst. But like,
I have Annie here. She's not doing what I want her to do. Can you come get her?
I don't know what my move would be if I was Starlight because she's public enemy number 1.
Get stronger.
Train with Superman.
Yeah,
maybe Zoe.
Go find Master Roshi. Go find Jiraiya. Go find whoever it is from Bleach, the hat guy.
Urahara. Yeah.
I was gonna say Ura. Yeah, I was gonna say
hat and clogs. Yeah. So That's the only thing we can really theorize, right? Because everybody else is captured besides Butcher, but like he's a
Well,
fucking wild card.
Look, here's the thing. This entire season, they were very heavy-handed with Starlight refuses to accept Butcher as an ally. Everything is anti-Butcher whenever he's like proposed to come back to the boys. She's not going to be able to do this on her own. I could see a world where everybody else is captive and she seeks out Butcher and the two of them team up.
Interesting.
You know what? After we talked about it, I was initially like, no way she's going to Butcher, but she might have to.
Well, she's in a corner. She literally has no allies at this point. I don't know.
What do we
like I said, it's a great place to leave this show.
Because I don't know what Ashley's going to do. She's going to be so deformed. She's going to be in Red River. And she's going to be classmates with or cellmates with Zoe.
All right. Well, like I said, we kind of got our broad stroke season opinions out on the front end of this episode, and we are a heavy hour and a half in here. So I don't know. I don't really have much of anything else. I've kind of theorized. There's not much to theorize about the boys because they're all getting arrested. We were just talking Starlight.
I guess the last thing to bring up, as like in terms of what to expect in season 5 is, God, I'm already blanking. The main Gen V girl,
the sex slave. You want to see if the sex slave in the red jumpsuit comes back?
Marie, yes, Marie. I wonder what her role. Could Annie go seek her out for whatever reason? Like, could they like somehow?
I actually like that a lot. She might recruit them and try to be like, hey,
because Marie definitely has to come back, right? Like, otherwise that is definitely like a missed point in.
Yeah, I would agree. If she doesn't come back, like, what the hell?
I'm sure we'll get another season of Gen V before the next season of the boys. Because
now that Newman's like, she's replacing Newman as that head popper role. So I mean, we do need that.
That was one thing I was a little upset about is we never got to see Newman try to pop Homelander's head. They've had a face off before where he's like, "Do you think you could do it?"
Marie's going to be the one to do it. Marie's going to be the one to do it.
I mean, that'd be cool, definitely. But I feel like it would have been cool if it was Newman. Or maybe she makes Homelander's cock explode or whatever.
For Marie to step in season 5 and be the one to take out Homelander, that would feel a little cheap to me. Not cheap, but unearned maybe for her. I don't know. That wouldn't sit right with me, I don't think.
The last thing I want to bring up, I guess, is Ryan and where we think he's going to be at the start of season 5.
Oh, right next to Homelander.
Right next to Homelander. That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah,
right next to Homelander.
I don't think he's like gonna run away or do.
You think we open up season 5 with a Ryan super suit potentially?
That would suck. I mean, it would be great. I would love the story.
Yeah, but we would also get pissed off. Yeah, in terms of like, fuck Ryan going with Homelander. Yeah.
You mean the homeboy?
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was such a terrible soup name. The other thing that we must talk about is the slight post-credit scene where Homelander sees Soldier Boy in cryo. And he's just like, did you not watch?
Wait a second.
It was like 10 seconds post-credit. And then they rolled the rest of the credits. He goes and he says something like, really, all this time you've been here or something like that. And he doesn't wake him up, but like, he sees Soldier Boy in Mallory's cryo stasis.
Homelander comes out swinging in season 5 with Sage, Ryan, and Soldier Boy. It's like, what are we doing here?
I think that's the deal because Soldier Boy is going to be more sympathetic to the cause. Maybe Homelander's going to be like, let's try this one more time. Like, look what they did to you.
Yeah.
Join my side.
Yeah. I agree. Man, do whatever you want. That's all you've always wanted to do.
I forgot that's another character that needs to also, like, we're just going to have like a cluster of like our favorite characters from across all the seasons in Gen V, just like conglomerating in the final season. Like, how is this not going to be good television? Like, it's going to be, I feel like, so much like from Gen V, Marie, Kate, Sam. Like, I feel like we need a lot of those guys in season 5, which they are primed for now that they are like now that they're basically going to be a part of the 7. I think Sam and Kate are. And Soldier Boy, how many 7 members are we at right now? Deep, Homelander, Firecracker, Black Noir. So Soldier Boy, Kate,
A-Train is
Sam.
technically still
Nah,
there,
he's
but on
out.
the app. Okay,
But
yeah.
so we have 4, so that's Kate, Sam, and Soldier Boy. That would
Damn.
be
No, that works out.
Damn, yeah,
that
that
is
does work.
insane. Oh man,
I like that.
I'm still so excited, man. I will say we've been to bring us down a little bit. Like I still think that this season was probably my least favorite. Still like still great television because it's the boys, and I always will love what they do. But a rocky start to finish. But the finish, the actual finish, this, like I said, this last 15 minutes was chef's kiss, I think.
Yeah, I'm so excited. As much as I pooped on season 4, I'm so excited to see what they do season 5. Big spectacle last season, like the big villainous goals almost about to be achieved. It'll be really interesting. So I'm really excited. I still love this show. I was like, Dave said, to bring it down a little bit, I was just a little upset with a lot of upset with a lot of the writing holes, if you want to call them holes. They weren't like
sloppiness, maybe
they weren't entirely glaring, but they just the quantity of them just kind of puts like a
it's out of
damper on
place
the
for the
season.
boys. It's out
Exactly.
of place.
So I'm really excited. I hope we see Home Banger in season 5 because
Banger.
he
I
was
on
forgot
your
about
wish
that
list,
one.
yeah.
yeah. But I like the season. I did, as much as I pooped on it.
I guess do
love
we
The
need to
Boys.
do a quick wish list of other of things?
I don't have any ready, if I'm being honest with you.
I don't have any.
Talked
Either.
about a lot of
theorize
theories.
things we want to see, yeah.
Well, real quick,
Flounder Pounder. Anybody? I don't know why I thought of that, but I did.
All right, real quick. What are you coming away when you think of season 4? What scene do you think of? Because I'm gonna be honest, and I'm a little upset. I think of fucking Tech Night and the fucking
it's the
sex
Tech
dungeon
Night.
a little
It's
bit.
definitely the Tech Night and the sex dungeon. I mean,
and
that's
Web
I
Weaver.
kind of hate that. I think Homelander revisiting the lab, that entire storyline in episode 2 was like,
I like that.
Top tier The Boys content
for sure. I would. Those are definitely the two that come to my mind, at least. And then I think also Newman getting snapped in half is also going to come up in my mind often.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think the Deep and Noir fighting at the Flatiron was pretty iconic too.
Maybe they should just bang. What do you guys think? Are the Deep and Black Noir gonna?
No. they just bang
Sex
over
is
all
the
the
spectrum, bro.
Hey, threesome with Sage. Who says no?
On all the dead bodies that they
throuple.
just killed because of the murder boners.
True.
Well, there it is, folks. That's our wish list.
Yep. Murder boners.
Said we weren't
going
to do it. Yeah. All right. I mean, hey, my closing thought, it was a bumpy ride at points to get here, but I think we are well poised for a awesome season 5. And hey, this is The Boys. I still love it. Even if this was a little bit of a down season, it's still pretty damn good. And yeah, I'm excited for season 5. Anything before I close it out here?
I got nothing.
If you see something, say something.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to be it. A wrap on our The Boys season 4 coverage. You better believe we're going to be back for season 5. Like I said, we are covering House of the Dragon. You can find that over on bingetowntv.com. And here's the spiel. As always, if you like what you heard, give Bingetown TV a follow on Twitter and Instagram. Visit us on bingetowntv.com and subscribe to our show on Spotify, YouTube, the Apple Podcast app, or wherever else you may find your podcast. Once again, we are Bingetown TV. And thanks for listening.